Hello class, these are our notes for section 515, functions involving percent change. So when borrowing money from a lender, they charge interest. And I'm sure many of you have heard that word before. A percentage of the borrowed money as payment for allowing us to use the money. This interest is typically calculated at a regular interval of time. So it could be monthly, it could be yearly, it could be quarterly. So quarterly would be every 3 months or 4 times a year. So there's different ways that they can calculate that. Suppose you receive a loan, this is our word problem now, a loan of $500 and the interest rate is 15%, calculated yearly. So remember 15% as a decimal is 0.15. So you can remember that you're moving the decimal 2 places. So like with 15%, our decimal's here, we're moving it 2 places. Another thing that that helps me remember is I remember that, well, 100% of something is just equal to 1 of something. And so that's kind of how I figure out the difference between the two and think about moving that decimal place. If you do not make any payments for the first year, how much would you owe at the end of the year? So let's think about how you'd have to pay back 100% of the money you borrowed plus an extra 15%, right? So you're going to pay 100% of the money you owe plus 15% for interest. So you've got the loan and you've got the interest. So we're paying 115%, which is 1.15. So to figure the amount of money that we'd have to pay, we'd have to take the 500 and we'd have to multiply by the 1.15. So that's how we'd figure that out. And it doesn't say that we have to multiply that out. I'm not going to worry about that. Right now we're just talking about how we could do these things. So if you did continue to not make any payments for the second year, how much would you owe at the second year? So the first year is the 500 times the 1.15. So this much is our first year. And then for the second year, we would have to take all of this stuff and we'd have to pay interest on that again. So that means I'd have to take this stuff here that I'm highlighting and I'd have to pay 100% of that plus another 15% of that. So that's going to mean, ooh, we did something exciting here. That's going to mean that I'm going to have to multiply by another 1.15. So let's kind of go over the reasoning for that again. That's because I need to pay all of the stuff that I have highlighted, plus I have to pay an extra 15% interest on that now. So I'm multiplying by 1.15 again, and this is going to be for my second year. If you do not, and if I wanted to shortcut that, I guess I could use exponents instead and write 500 times 1.15 squared. If you continue to not make any payments for the third year, how much would you owe at the end of the third year? So let's go ahead and write down our first year and write down our second year. So for the first year, we have the 500 times the 1.15. That's our first year. And in the second year, we have to pay 100% of that times another 15%. So we multiply by 1.15 again for the second year. I know you probably already know the answer. And now when I'm looking at my third year, I have to pay all of this stuff, 100% of that I already owe, plus an extra 15% on top. So I'm multiplying by 1.15 again, and that's going to be for my third year. And I'm sure, as you've already guessed, that's just 500 times 1.15 to the third. So now we're going to go ahead and write an equation for our total debt D after T years if we make no payments. So D would equal 500 times 1.15 to the T power for T years. So we are taking all of the things basically now that we've learned about exponents and exponential functions, and we're going to be applying them now for the rest of this unit in situations that talk about money. So we're going to be looking at very real life examples, things that you probably will have to deal with all the time as an adult. Maybe not all the time, but you're definitely going to have to be familiar with them. So for now, we're looking at these kind of simple interest ideas. We're not making any payments, and we're just looking at like how does money change? How does interest add to what we owe? And how does this work? As always, if you've got questions, please ask.